welcome in, everybody. Hey, sorry it took so long for us to get here and do some content, but hey, man, it's been a very, very, very emotional time for us as Bears fans, and I know it. If you can recall, you guys, on Sunday's show, on Sunday's Nomad at night, I gave you guys a warning. And I said, hey, if you like if you like sound mental health, and you like your sanity, and you like being an optimistic person, please don't go to Twitter. Do not go there. It's a hellscape right now. And unfortunately, because I have this job to create podcasts and do shows, Twitter is a big reason why I know some of the things that I know as far as information goes, because it happens there usually first. And so unfortunately, I have to spend quite a bit of time on Twitter. But for you all that don't have to, it's a really sad place to be at right now, because everybody's reaction to what happened last week was so visceral, and it was very real, man. I'm not making an excuses for the Bears, and I'm not here to do that. But some of the things that I've heard, like the booing at the stadium, some of the overreactions on Twitter. Hey, fire everybody, trade Justin. We need new ownership. After one game, you guys, that was one game. One game. It was a bad loss, and it sucks for us as fans, because we have to live with that until we see them at the end of the season. But it is really, if it was gonna be a loss, I'd rather it happen now than somewhere down the line. And they realized later on that they should have fixed some things and taken care of some things earlier. It happened now, so that's the good thing about it. The second good thing about it is they left a lot of room for improvement. When you bottom out like that in a game with that kind of magnitude, it leaves a lot of room for improvement, and a lot of glaring situations, offensively, defensively, special teams, areas that with a few tweaks here and there you can clean up. And so I just lead this conversation with that, and just to make sure you guys know that the reason we're doing this podcast tonight is because I think people need somewhere they can speak their minds. People hear them, and we can respond to it. This is about you guys tonight. And so what happened today is we have a very, very special guest with us tonight, man, because this guy, he's been supporting us since day one, since the day we launched. He's been right there supporting us, me in particular. He let me know how much he's there for us. And for me, when times get rough like this, he let me know, hey, man, reach out to me, talk to me, keep yourself in a good place, man. He's very supportive. He's one of our top supporters on this channel, man. And I was glad that he accepted the invite to come and join us today. His name is Brian Hendren, and I'm going to bring him onto the screen right now. Brian, how are you, man? I want you to let the fans know a little bit about yourself and how deeply steeped you are in this Bears culture.
Well, I'm 59 years old. I'm a Sagittarian. I like to take long walks in the rain. All joking aside, I've been a Bears fan since 1970. I've lived within about a 50-mile radius of Indianapolis, so I didn't have the luxury of all the news and stuff being there in Chicago. Back when I was a kid, I used to have to walk to the library, which was only 6 blocks away, but rain, snow, whatever, to get whatever Bears information, which is why I can't stand the fucking Colts, because I used to be able to watch all the games, Bears games, until the Colts moved here. And anybody can remember back then they sucked. So that means that they got blacked out. A lot of people were saying, well, why don't you like the Colts? No, for about 15 years before the Colts got here, I was a Bears fan. There is such thing as loyalty. So I'm loyal to my team. Win, lose, or draw, I always want them to win, but I support them. Now, I wasn't happy with this past Sunday's performance, but there will be better times. Don't worry about things you cannot control.
And Samuel, before you go, I just wanted to see when I go on Twitter, it's such a place where when you're a negative person and you have a negative way of thinking and a negative viewpoint, that's the place to be because you'll find your likeness there on that space. And I find Brian there. He's nothing like what I see in a lot of these people on Twitter. I'm not saying everybody on Twitter is an awful person. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, if you want to find a lot awful and a whole lot of it, that is the app. That is the app to go on because there's nothing but doom and gloom on there, and they way overreact. But what I find in Brian is he sees me. I think he knows that I'm a positive person. I try to look at life in a positive way, and I look at this team in the same way. I'm not delusional about this team at all. I see it the way I see it with the X's and O's. I'm just optimistic about football and what could be done when you make tweaks in football, even though it was a bad loss. And I think he saw me reacting to it on there, Samo, and I think he kind of felt for me. It's like, man, Nomad is really going through it with all this negativity on here. It is overwhelming to me. It's very overwhelming to me because I just wish I could grab each and every one of those people, not to harm them, but to see if I could talk some kind of, some positive into you. Like, you don't have to take everything that way. I know it was a bad loss. I know it was awful on national TV in front of no, it wasn't on national TV, but it was Green Bay. You know what I mean? Everybody's going to take that really, really personal, but to take it to the nth degrees that it's been taken to after 4 days, it's just like, come on, man, we got to know as fans. We have to be better as a community of Bears fans and know when to flush something to get ready to be supportive of your guys. If you say you're a Bears supporter and you say you're a ride or die fan, be a ride or die fan. Be the right kind of fan. Don't be the kind of fan that's toxic. And see, that's where we are on Twitter right now for the majority, and that's not good.
If I can say something real quick, Nomad. Earlier, when you and we was on Twitter, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, I told you, hey, I got your back because you made a comment about all the negativity, and I wrote you back that you wrote back, well, why or with what? Well, you can try it with kind words. You can try reasoning, making sense. What I wrote to you and what I was thinking was two different things. What I wrote to you was, I'll pray for him. What I was thinking was, Nomad, if you get some names and addresses, I'll go with you to beat the hell out of them.
We ain't gonna attack somebody. I think we're gonna avoid that.
Well, my fault's pain at them. But the doom and gloom, I don't mean to interrupt. The doom and gloom, it's sports. This is supposed to be something that we enjoy, recreation type things. You can't let it overtake your life, your family.
That's right.
You have to have priorities. Like I said, I've loved the Bears for 50 plus years. I don't have any kids, no nieces or nephews. I'm not married. When I say that I love the Bears, I love the Bears. But I love this team longer than the general manager, the coach has been living.
Right.
It's a lot easier to criticize and second guess and use hindsight. I feel better by cheering somebody up.
Yeah.
I use comedy. I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm a GED grad. But, I can use some fancy words.
Hey.
Go ahead.
Brian, well, first of all, thanks, Brian, for coming on with us. I remember we had the spaces in Twitter, and yeah, you said some really nice stuff in there, man. Really very thoughtful guy. So you are well spoken, I'll tell you that.
Well,
especially when it comes to these Bears.
It's real easy for me to say, hey, those guys are getting paid millions of dollars. I'm barely making minimum wage, and I put in effort, which that's all true. But who wants to hear that crap?
Yeah, and that's where it gets to for me. That's where it's at for me. It gets overwhelming at some point, and we're like, when does it stop? I'm exhausted from all the negativity that I've read and tried to, talk people off the edge, and it's just exhausting, man. We're now what 4 days into it, and people are still in there. You're just harping on all the bad and not just finding something good. And I always ask them, I'll point out something good after I say something to someone on Twitter about what went bad and try to talk them off the edge. I'll tell them something that did go well, because there was a lot that went well. I know we talk about the offensive line. The offensive line as a unit didn't have their best showing. But individually, those guys actually had some pretty good games, man. And that includes Nate Davis, the guy who's really taken the beating all over mainstream media and social media. He's really taken a beat, and that guy did not play as bad as you guys think. I don't know if you know what you're looking at when you go and look at the film. I suggest you kind of evaluate some things for yourself. Now, did he have some WTF moments? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just because he hasn't played with those guys, man. And he looks like that showed to me. It looks like he's out there trying to save the world on his own and not playing with his guys, with the guys next to him. And I think that'll come with time. I'm a little bit more optimistic about the offensive line than most, just from what I saw. I think our tackles were solid the entire game, outside of a few, rough plays. But hey, man, there's a lot of positive to talk about with what happened this past week. I know we were embarrassed. I'm embarrassed. I'm hurt more than anything, just because I'm tired of losing and I'm tired of having to, go and face people who are Packers fans at work and watching guys walking downtown with Packers gear on. And I usually say something to them. This week, I just, let those guys walk by. But hey,
you know what, Samuel? I don't mean to cut you off, man. And we're gonna get to some current events. We just had to touch this up while we, at the beginning of the show. We need to get that out of our bloodstream. We need to get that, because there was a lot of things that happened that were good. I know it's hard to see it when you take a loss like that, because all your emotions are tied into it all. But we're gonna get to. I saw you earlier, Jason. We're gonna get to some current events. Let's start this off by I think the breaking news in the situation is Kyler Gordon is on IR for at least 4 weeks. I believe they signed. I think it was Greg Stroman to the active roster. What they do next is going to be a question to me, because he's going to need a backup. And I had a couple people come to me and say something to me about, what do you think they'll do to back him up? Will they play Tyreek at the slot? Starting at the slot. Will they play Jalen Jones? Will they play Terrell Smith? That's all a good question. I don't know. Will they start a guy that's right now on the active roster? Or will they bring Greg Stroman up to start and then start another guy to back him up? I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. I think we'd have saw a signing by now if they were going to do something. I think they're going to work with what they have in house and on the practice squad with what they want to do as far as moving to support the Kyler Gordon injury.
I'm not sure, but I think they're going to start Blackwell and have.
I think he's on a DNP today, and so when he's DNP
he was limited today. He was limited today in practice, or was he yesterday?
He had a DNP yesterday and limited today. So I might be wrong. I might be wrong.
If I can, real quick, one positive thing that I hadn't seen anybody say anything about, we got a punt returner that can hang on to the ball.
Yep. That's right.
I have say,
hey, I'll take that any day, Brian.
Yeah, and that's nothing against Velus Jones. I hope everything works out for him. But as of this moment, at least we got a punt returner that can catch and hang on to the ball.
Brian, there's a lot of things. Look here, I'll just give you guys a baseline of how I see it all. When I take my emotions away from it, the reaction to it, of what happened Sunday, it gets real simple for me. Really, really easy when I can separate my emotions from it. And that's all I'm trying to encourage you guys to do, is separate your emotions from it. If you want to take a look at the X's and O's, how plays were executed, I mean, there's a lot of things not to like. There's also some things that you do like. However, I know that looking at that film for a couple of times, I know that there's just some quick cleanups that they can do. Like say, the what was it? The screen game. In the screen game, that was a terrible play plan for an entire 4 quarters, especially after it became apparent that that wasn't surprising anyone. You got to be able to adjust, and so all the fire
Mhm.
you that Luke Gessie is getting right now, he deserves it right now because he stuck to a script a script that wasn't working very well after a few plays. After a series or two, it was pretty clear the short game wasn't benefiting Justin Fields. Justin Fields may not ever be a short game master. He might not ever be that kind of quarterback, and that's okay. That doesn't mean he can't be a productive quarterback. You can run all kinds of plays that you can make him really, really effective at what he does without emphasizing. Like you could really tell, Samo, you could really, really tell the muscle memory was in effect. Like they spent all
Mhm.
that time, and the criticism was in the offseason why he needs to get better in the quick game, dropping the ball off so he doesn't get sacked as many times. All of that stuff was
Mhm.
valid. And you could tell that they beat that into his head, and that was part of his
Yes.
muscle memory. And that was his focus game one, was making sure I'm checking his ball down, making sure I'm not taking a whole lot of risks, taking what the defense is giving me, instead of being explosive and being an aggressor in the play calling plan and taking those deep shots and basically going into attack mode. And so that's who Justin Fields really is at his core. How you can get him to kind of dial back everything we've taught you and everything we're trying to get you to do in the off season. Take that, use it, but also, man, be the aggressor. Go into attack mode and take your shots and give your playmakers a chance. I think that's the challenge for Justin this week.
I
Anybody?
thought Justin played kind of robotic, man. To me, I thought he played robotic, and he was just trying to execute all of the coaching points that they gave him, like you said, in the short game, and dumping the ball off and making sure he's hitting his check downs. And he was probably reading, going through his progressions a little bit too quickly. Maybe he doesn't have the trust in the offensive line, or maybe he's just trying to show the coaches that, hey, I can get to this check down and I'm going to hit this check down when I need to, as opposed to running or holding on to the ball too long. I'm trying to get I think he was just trying to get rid of the ball out of his hands, as opposed to, being a playmaker and making a play, moving guys with his eyes, going through the pre-reads and going through the pre-reads of the defense, and knowing what coverage is coming and knowing where guys should be open. And then you move this guy with your eyes and then you throw it right behind him, man. That's what Justin has to progress into. I think right now he just has to, not take all those coaching points and just allow it to make him robotic. You got to trust yourself at some point in time and trust your talent, and and mirror that with some of those coaching points, and evolve into yourself, man, and not this robot or whatever they want you to be, man. Use your legs, man. Keep your eyes down the field, man, as you're using your legs so that you can find those big plays and those guys open down the field, man. He said something alarming to me, which must be a coaching point, where he says that he takes his eyes off of the field when he evades a rusher, because he's trying to make sure he gets away and doesn't get the ball slapped out and forcing the fumble. Well, news break, Justin. You did that and you ran the ball and the fumble was forced when you did that. So either way, there's an opportunity to force a fumble, man. Look, dog, keep your eyes downfield until you cross that line of scrimmage, and then take your eyes from down that field, man. But if you can make a big play, try to make a big play, man. Don't be as robotic as these coaches are trying to make you, man. Trust your talent, because the guy has a lot of talent. We saw it last year. I think that this week with that screen game that you're talking about, Nomad, it was just poor execution, man. Poor execution.
Yes, sir. You know what this reminds me of? But except this time we actually have a quarterback with generational talent. This reminds me of Mitch. He's being overcoached. They're not letting him just be natural, just like you're saying. I couldn't agree anymore. And then here's one more thing, too, with Justin Fields. Everybody has to consider. He only played 34 games in college. He only threw 618 passes. So he's not 100% NFL ready like we all thought he was going to be. He still needs to take some time. He may not have it all together this year, and that's okay. There's no need to hit the panic button. I kind of was doing that a little bit on Sunday, but I took the time to realize, hold on, this guy has not played that much. He needs to take more NFL reps. He needs to continue to have shitty games like this so he knows what to do next time. So then he'll be firing on all cylinders. Hopefully, this game will be it, but we'll see. I don't know. I'm not sure if this team's ready yet, but we'll see. Long way to go as far as the season goes.
Well, with what I'm thinking, I don't know what the coaching staff has told Justin, what they want him to improve on. I would hope that Justin would develop a little bit of Jim McMahon with, hey, wait a minute, this play ain't gonna work. If
to him.
If he does, come up with something on his own and it don't work, take your ass chewing. But if doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result, like I said, I'm old, but isn't that the definition of insanity?
Insanity, yes, you were. You're absolutely right.
Now, what I was hoping when I was watching the game Sunday, and this could be wishful thinking on my part, was they would make adjustments. Something that I will give Getsy kudos for after the Washington game. They made adjustments.
Yep.
I would hope that, he would do that again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that Getsy don't have plays or he don't know how to coach. I just, when you're dealing with 53 guys and even say his case, 24, 26, whatever, getting everybody to click on all cylinders on the same page, that's got to be tough. I couldn't do it.
You know what, Brian? When I was looking at the presser after the game, all I saw was one word, and this doesn't have anything to do with politics. This is about a play style and the energy that he was given, during the game. Because I saw it the whole game, and I was trying to put my finger on it. And he said the right word in the game afterwards in the presser, when he said, "Hey, I was a little too conservative." That told me everything that I needed to know. That told me every single thing that I needed to know. That told me that regardless of what what was drawn up in that playbook for him to run, I think it was in him, and it was worn into him that, hey man, listen, don't be afraid to take these checkdowns. If you think something, if you second guess anything, you don't see it right away, take the check down. Don't second guess yourself, which is a good way to coach a quarterback who had shortcomings in that area. However, did they know that he would take that so to heart to where he wouldn't be explosive down the field and miss opportunities and not be the aggressor and be, the attacker? You know what I mean? He that's where he came up short. And I'm going to criticize Justin in this way. Justin, if you ever listen to this podcast, I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this right now. Don't ever let anybody stop you from being who you are. If you want to attack. If that's how you get yourself into your mojo, you take your shots. You got the playmakers out there that you can throw the ball up to 50-50. Give them a shot to make a damn catch. But take your shot. Be the aggressor. You need to, for the sake of your team, get into attack mode in your mindset. You have to be in attack mode for the sake of your team so that they feel good about the guy they got behind the center, which was something I was starting to worry about as the game went on. And this is my big old problem right now is I was just hoping through all of this negativity that happened, you guys, I was saying to myself, oh my God, is this one of those moments where the coaches lose the locker room, Justin loses the locker room, all that I was thinking about all that kind of stuff. Y'all was thinking about the points on the board. I was thinking about all that kind of stuff. You can very easily, if you don't have the right people in the locker room to sew it back together and put everything back in its proper perspective, you can totally lose that locker room just that fast off of one game and off of a couple of guys like Claypool, and we'll talk about him in a minute, and DJ and other guys, Mooney, not getting the ball when they know they're open and the opportunity was there, or throwing a ball in a tight spot and getting them killed on a hit You know what I mean? Things like that. You can totally lose your teammates that way. But what I'm hearing so far, it sounds like they're slowly starting to sew it up and they're getting back together. And so that was I was looking for some good news in that regard, and I think I started to see it. I think midweek. I mean, yesterday at least I started to see some good news coming out of there.
Well, I mean, that was.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Brian.
That was kind of my point. I wish Justin would get in his inner Jim McMahon. I don't care if he's got to go in a dark room, burn incense, sing Kumbaya, wear that lace shirt to get him in his groove, but go for it. And I don't know how much trust Getsy has, and that could be a two-way street with him and the offensive players.
I'm gonna get there later, Brian, because I'm feeling that way as well. And Nomad, you're right about the conservative mindset that he had in that game, but I think they've coached him to just to be this conservative dude now, man, because Herb asked him a question this week that kind of spoke to me a little bit too. He asked him about changing the play call at the line of scrimmage if he doesn't feel comfortable with the play, and he's like, yeah, I have the autonomy to do that. I'm knowledgeable of the offense, but I don't typically do that. I just trust what Luke calls because he's an offensive coordinator, and I trust him to get us into the right play. And if not, once I start executing the play, then I'll just have to figure it out once I'm beginning to execute the play. That's not how you're supposed to do that, Justin. I like you're supposed to have a mindset where, all right, I'm stepping up here. The coach calls this play. I know our offense, but if he saw this defense, he probably would have called another play. And that's when you're supposed to know to shift into this other play. And I think, like you said, Nomad, I think he's just taking coaching too literal sometimes, man. And that's probably his problem in this game. Hopefully he has coached out of him this week. And, he brings it back down and, takes some shots down the field and everything. So, yeah, that's just a point that I wanted to make. And, there was one more thing you said. What was it? The teams. And having that fractured locker room. Yeah, I was afraid of that as well because it could have gone either way where guys start pointing fingers at each other too. And once guys start pointing fingers at each other, then the other guys on the team start picking sides, and then that's how the locker room becomes fractured, and that's how everything breaks down. It was good to hear that Jaquan Brisker reached out to Justin and just talked to him and about the leadership on the team, bringing the juice and making sure everyone stayed together.
That's true. Hey, you guys would be surprised how I wouldn't say fractured. A good football team is slightly, and I told you guys this in the offseason, man. It's like gangs and stuff, man. It's like the offense is a gang, the defense is a gang, and they become even smaller gangs in the position rooms and stuff like that. We discussed all that. But hey, neither the offense nor the defense have room to point the finger at each other.
There's blame for everybody.
Yes,
yep.
Yes.
Special teams as well.
Let's slide into some particulars. You hear a lot of like I had to mute a couple of people today because some of the comments about Chase Claypool was so vulgar. It got away from football. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear you or see you on. I don't care if you're a supporter of the show or not, dog. That's not cool, man. Don't be foul. Yep. If you're gonna criticize someone, criticize them for their football play and leave it there, man. Don't take it to places it doesn't belong. You know what I mean? It's just not cool, man. And so I did mute a few people. I'm sorry for that, but no, I'm not really sorry. But Chase Claypool, I know there's a I'm gonna give you guys some detail as a DB. There's a video going around. Everybody keeps replaying this video. It was a screen pass called, or I don't know if it was a receiver screen or a running back screen, but Chase's job on that screen was to get the outside block. And what happened was, here's a technique that I didn't know in high school, but I learned really quickly in college. If you can recognize or you can see a detail in the formation that you can detect whether it's going to be a screen your way or not, first thing they teach you to do is get to the receiver and get inside of him, inside of his arms, and get into his chest before he can get to you. Because if you can get to the leverage, he can't really keep you out of the play. Only thing he can do is try to grab you once you start going for where the ball is going. And so there's that play going on where Chase, it's all out there on Twitter, where Chase gets off the ball slowly, a little bit slower than normal, and the defender, the corner, recognizes that it's a screen, and he hurries up and jumps on Chase Claypool, gets inside of his arms and gets into his chest. That's pretty much game over, you guys. That is game over. Once he's got the leverage, that guy, Chase, cannot stop him from making that play unless he snags his jersey or grabs an arm or does something of that matter. So I'm just talking about that one play in particular. I'm not saying that Chase didn't have worse plays than that later on in the game. I'm talking about that play that's circulating around Twitter right now. Me as a DB, I know exactly what that was. He got to Chase before Chase got to him, got inside leverage, and it was over.
Yeah, because we have to remember it's a timing element to the screen game as well. Like, he can't just run up and start blocking that man on that passing play until everything has to be synced up. He has to sell that he's going out on the route before he just runs up and grabs this guy and starts blocking him, and before the receiver falls in line behind him to catch that pass. And I think, I can give him some slack on that issue, but I think that his execution and his just mindset or mentality just was not all there. And I kind of feel like some of what Brian hit on earlier, I don't think that he believed in that game plan, man, and believed that, he should have been the guy out there executing those blocks and doing the dirty work. And that just, if you don't feel like if you're not all 100% brought into something, then it's hard to give 100% effort. And that's what I saw from Claypool a little bit. I don't think that,
hey, Sam,
it makes him terrible. What's that?
Can I ask you a question? Because somebody said something to me on Twitter, and they was like asking me kind of what's his problem. I can't remember who it was saying it to me, but it's like you some players, like I've seen players over the years, like I say, for instance, I'll give you one good example, T.O. T.O., if you weren't targeting him, he gets more and more out of the game. Why that is because T.O. is emotional, just like Chase Claypool, for whatever reason that is. Who knows why he's like that? But when you target him early in the game and give him touches, the more and more he gets into the game, the more and more physical he becomes when he has to block on a play. And so what I was telling that person that was asking me those questions, I'm like, you could sit him and show no confidence in him, and that would be the wrong message. Or you can do exactly opposite of what he's expecting is going to happen to him. Target him early, get him involved in the game plan, and see if you see a different player.
And that's where I was going. Go ahead, Brian.
Brandon Marshall was the same way.
Yes, that's another really good example.
Something that I was going to ask, I know there's probably no way that you guys know, but how soon do the players get the plays or whatever before the game? I mean, do they get like, for lack of a better word, script, say Saturday, hey, this is what we're going to do the first couple of series? Because if that's the case, and if Claypool sees, hey, wait a minute, I'm not getting very many touches.
Oh, I can answer that. I can answer that.
For good.
Right now, Brian, it's you get that the minute you get back into the building that next week. What they'll do is install it, and they'll walk through, and then they'll put the pads on to see if you execute them well, and they'll see if there's plays in there that's not looking so good, and they'll start scrubbing and replacing after that. But early in the week, you get that game plan for sure.
Well,
now something.
Go ahead.
Real quick, something interesting that Eberflus said, was it yesterday or someone? No, I don't think it was Getsy said today, was that the decision to sit EQ is a head coaching and GM decision. They decide which 46 suit up on the game, which is odd to me. But from what I heard from some other people, it sounds like that's what happens over the entire league. But in knowing what the game plan was, I don't know what the who decided that it was best to sit EQ in that moment. And what I'm thinking could have possibly happened, now this is just me speculating a little bit, is that EQ was doing that dirty work all week in practice, and then it comes on Saturday and they say, well, hey, EQ's not going, Chase, you're going to fill that spot from him, and you're going to be our guy that blocks it up. And he's like, what the heck? That's how you lose your players. That's how you lose your players right there.
See, that's a little bit what I was wondering. With Claypool, well, as far as that goes, all 53 guys, they're alpha males. They got egos. You don't be in that position if you don't. Claypool just happens to be a major diva. And if he sees one, hey, I'm not getting too many touches, to hell with it, I get paid the same. Or if they did like what you just said, practice with EQ and then come Thursday or Friday, oh, by the way, EQ, you're inactive. Claypool, you do what he's going to be mad. It's just one of those. And I hate it because I like Claypool. I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Me too.
Good, bad, or indifferent. I got Irish tattoo. I got that in 92. But how to control an ego, I don't know how to do that, which is why I'm not a coach, which is why I'm not a parent. I don't know what you do. Setting him, that makes sense from a fan's point of view.
Not at all.
At the same time, do you just widen that gap? And if you didn't lose your team, you will.
Hey, Brian, I'll tell you this. I was talking to a reporter friend of ours. I ain't going to say nobody's name. I ain't going to indict nobody by saying it, but I won't mention the name. But and that conversation came up, and the emotional part of who he is, and he's look, the thing about people like him is you can easily, it's so easy to point the finger and say he's too emotional, he's this, he's that. You never know how somebody got to that way. He could be emotionally unstable for whatever reason. It could be things that happened to him in his childhood. And me being a mentor and a counselor for pretty much all of my adult life, that makes me think a certain way when I see someone like that. You know what I mean? Because there's always a story behind it. It's about how do you I'm trying to get at how do you channel that inner emotion that he has, right? That he has a hard time containing. How do you deal with that? We said two important names that really do stick out: Terrell Owens and Brandon Marshall. Very emotional football players. Very emotionally driven. What you do is you target them, you get them involved early, and it's not about flushing Chase Claypool down. Oh, he doesn't fit the team. He's this, he's that. No, just figure out what makes him tick. Figure out that's your job as a coach, to figure out what makes him tick. And that's what I think the challenge is for this group of guys. And I think Tyke Tobert said some things earlier, and I think they had some time. I think the reporters got to talk to some people behind the scenes, and Tyke is confident in him. I'm confident in him. I just think it's a matter of how you enable those emotions and how you are able to use them. He might be one of those guys you have to target early and often to get him into the game. So once he's engaged, then you go away from him a little bit and target some other guys, but then don't let him get so far out of the game plan that he loses his focus. It's about how you coach.
It's over passion, man. It's their passion, man. I'm not going to call them emotional. I'm just going to say those guys are overly passionate about the game. And they feel like if they're not involved in the game, then the game is it's not as interesting to them, and they just feel like if they're not able to affect the win in other ways. And like you said, I think that the coaches are responsible for getting the guy to buy in. Now, every guy is not going to buy into what you're selling easily, so coaches are going to have to make a concerted effort to, get him to buy into every game plan, dog, and just talking to him like, look, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing it. And this is where you're going to help us. And, we're going to target you, like you said, Nomad, maybe get him a ball or two early so that he's getting going. He gets his juices going and, he can flex his muscles a little bit before he starts blocking out there. But you ask a guy who's a wide receiver on a contract year to block the entire game, like that's a hard sell for a passionate guy like him. For a passionate guy like him, and you're supposed to know that as a coach. So then you have to make that extra concerted effort to go to him and say, hey, look, I know this is not ideal. This is not what you want. We promise the next game, like it's going to be a little better. This game, this is what we need from you. I'm going to get you a couple balls this game too, by the way. But, that's how you attack that, man. And then I heard some other story. I don't know if you guys heard this about him being left off of the list of names that were going to be announced in the stadium. He had to fight to get his name put on that list. That's another thing, like you got to know your players, man. You got to know your players. Like you got to know that he's a guy who's going to feel some type of way about that. So maybe we should just include him if it's not going to hurt anything, because obviously it didn't hurt anything because you guys decided to do it later on after he talked to you about it. So, hey, just certain stuff like that. I think the coaching staff gets the L for, and what went on with Claypool. Effort is like important to me, but I think the coaches have to do a better job of coaching that effort out of him.
You go ahead, Brian.
I agree with that. And like I said, I've never been an athlete other than, backyard crap. But a lot of what you just said, I mean, that applies to every job in the workforce. I've mostly worked factory. Regardless how I've worked places where there was only 9 of us. I've worked where there's over 1,500 of us. To get everybody, I mean, of course they can say, well, if you don't like this job, you can go. That's not the way to do it. But everybody wants to feel appreciated.
Right.
Yep.
Everybody's got a little bit of ego thinking that, you matter.
Yep.
Right.
I never called an all-star at whatever machine I was running, but hey, I was able to go the next day and get a paycheck. So obviously I was doing something right. Now, when I was working on a farm, the animals didn't say anything, but I was able to get along with them.
So like when Luke Getsy, he went to the podium, and I don't think people really appreciated his tone and his answers, but I totally understood it. I totally understood it. It wasn't exactly what I was looking to hear, but I totally understood it. Here's the thing about what Luke Getsy said in response to all the questions. A lot of these reporters, I ain't going to say all of them because a few of them are friends of ours, and they always seem to ask relevant stuff, and they're not trying to constantly provoke and actually piss somebody off to get some headline. They're actually asking relevant questions. But, he said something in response to a question where he said, people were criticizing his game plan, and he was like, hey, had we executed on the blocking scheme in some of those screenplays that you guys are getting on me about, you guys be patting me on the back. That is very true. That is very true. Here's my thing about that whole thing is, maybe you overdid that. It looked more like a Aaron Rodgers game plan than a Justin Fields game plan. Aaron Rodgers got that really quick flick of the ball. He gets that ball out a whole lot quicker than Justin, and plays happen a whole lot more crisp and a whole lot more easy in the screen game for Aaron Rodgers versus someone who has a longer, elongated throwing motion than Aaron Rodgers. See, as a coach, you have to recognize that and understand that, okay, you can call some plays like that, but you can't call an entire game plan strictly around this guy throwing the ball in the screen game. His release isn't that quick, you know what I mean? But Justin is really powerful with his arm, and he can really fit the ball in the tight spots like Aaron Rodgers. But the release in the screen game is probably more important than anything else besides the blocking that happens in the screen game. And if you don't have the right kind of quarterback to really be really good at that, you have to minimize how many of those plays you call. I'm not saying take that game plan out of your script, but minimize how many times you call that play, because you don't have a quick twitch thrower like you have in Aaron Rodgers. You have to know that. The fact that he didn't adjust to it was my beef with Luke Getsy. I think if they were to make a move if they decide to make a move at some point, I think you empower somebody like Tyke Tolbert, who knows how to use the weapons and what Justin has in those weapons. You know what I mean? You empower a guy like that that's going to want to push that ball up and down that field.
His arrogance, that was arrogance to me, and it showed in the game with him sticking to that game plan, even though when it wasn't working. And you know, at some point you got to put your ego to the side and say, hey, what I drew up and what I thought was going to work in this game isn't working because it's not being executed. You know, my guys aren't executing this play properly. On the at what point what do you call 14 of those screenplays? So by the seventh time when it didn't work, then I'm thinking you should have known, like, you know, we're not executing this properly. So let me put my ego to the side and start calling some better plays, maybe get some balls down the field and then go back to it. I'm not going to keep calling a run and then a screen and then another screen. Like, that's just not smart. That's not smart football. And that was our problem with this dude, man, in his game plan. For him to come up and say that, you know, if it had worked, then we wouldn't. It didn't. If it was the fifth, we'd all be drunk. You know, that's what isn't that the saying? So let's not work. That you're speaking hypothetically. It didn't work, so now we can talk about it then, and we can talk about it not working 14 times in the game. So that's the problem. Yeah, I'm with you there, man. There was no real accountability there. He didn't take ownership for that failing, and you know, and him sticking with it. I didn't like that at all.
I agree with 100% what you said, Samo, and I'm going to add two more things. One of them we already talked about: stubbornness.
Yep.
Yes.
That's what it comes down, and ego. Number two, the defense gave up 31 points.
Yep.
If your defense can't stop when you're running the offense, you better come up with plays that you're pretty sure is going to work. It isn't time to get cute. Let's try this and see what it does. Like you said, after you've done it 7-8 times, open up the playbook.
Yep.
Hey, Brian, can I point out something to you that I want, and you too, Sam, I want to point something out to you guys in the chat. You guys let me know. Put in a Y in the comment or an N in the comment if you notice this. Sometimes I'm looking at the sidelines when the camera's putting when he's on the sidelines and when the play call is coming in between plays on the offensive side of the ball, and plays are coming in adjusted after a play. I'm noticing Flus on the covering his mouth and talking while the play is coming in. I'm wondering if anybody else is noticing that, and as if Flus's hands are more in the cookie jar on the offensive playbook than we think right now. I don't know if anybody else is noticing that. Maybe it's just me and my eyes and the shit that I pay attention to. Excuse my language, but I'm noticing that.
If that is the case, then Plus is a liar because he said he was going to be CEO. And then two, again, with the ego and the stubbornness, why would you have a guy that has predominantly been a defensive guru, coach, whatever, interfere with someone that's been an offensive? I can understand using somebody as a springboard, but you got 45 seconds to call in your next play.
Mm-hmm. I think that Flukes has to say something, though. He has to say, I don't know if that's before or after the play goes in, when he's still communicating with his coaches. Nomad, I definitely noticed that he does that. And yeah, it does make you wonder if it's before or after the play, or if Justin can hear whatever Flus is saying as well. So it is curious. It's something curious to think about. But as far as go ahead.
I got one more thing to add to that. Who is up in the booth?
Yeah,
nobody other than nobody's really up there, man. Other than that, that's another thing that I find curious too, Brian, because you know, like you could be a coach, a head coach, and you're supposed to be out there on the sidelines. I don't know if he's giving these coordinators an opportunity to be on the sidelines. I think he's asking all of his guys, and I think it could be a strategy behind it, because I know for a fact that if you're on the sidelines, you get a better feel for the game and the flow of the game, the intensity of the game and the physicality of a game, and it kind of leads you down in your playlist, or your playbook on what to call next. You start feeling the flow of a game after like a running back makes a powerful run, and you starting to see, the defense kind of reeling, and it's hard to kind of feel that when you in a booth. I would imagine. I've never called plays from a booth, but I would imagine that. Maybe you feel like your guys could benefit more from being on the sidelines. I haven't seen a coordinator in the booth yet.
I haven't either, or heard, or whatever. But my reasoning is, one, being up in a booth, I agree 100% with what you said, with the caveat of, one, you're getting a different view. Two, you're drowning out players or whatever that may persuade you to do something that's not best for the team.
All the noise that you can drown out. You're away from all the noise. You're away from the coach as head coach as well. That includes the head coach, and everyone, the players, the other coaches. You're away from all of that. Whatever comes into your headphones, you can choose to listen to it or ignore it, but you get that bird's eye view. And if you want to communicate with your quarterback, there's a method for you to communicate with your quarterback once he gets to the sideline. I agree, man. Maybe they need to change it up, and maybe he needs to go up there upstairs. And yeah, I understand what you're saying, Nomad, about getting the feel of the game and the feel for your players. But maybe that emotion that's on the sideline, whether it be good or bad, isn't good for Getsy.
You know what? I can definitely. You guys already know, man. I see the game probably 70-30. No, I'd say 60-40 defense. You know what? For me, if I'm coordinating that defense, I want to see exactly how that from the top. I want a bird's eye view of what's going on pre-snap and post-snap, so I can have an idea of who's out of spot and who's out of alignment, whether or not we need to bring. And we're about to flip to the defensive side of the ball right now, because there's Alan Williams was not in the building today, and that's a whole thing right there. We gonna get
convenient.
Right. Hold on.
How convenient.
Hold on. But if you call the defense, you need. I'm just talking from a defensive point of view. I prefer to have that bird's eye view versus being out there. They can hear me. As long as the guy can hear me on the microphone, I'm good with that. If I need my assistant to be down there on the sidelines, getting in people's ear, I need to count on my assistant to do that. But I need to see that game from above, so I know what not to do and what to do next. And so that's just my perspective on that. I know that I would feel better from the bird's eye view. Who knows what's going on in Alan Williams' head? But we'll hold on before you get into that whole thing about him not being in practice. But just talk about that standpoint.
Yeah, that bird's eye view is important. I think it would benefit both coordinators. Like you said, man, you can see how the defense is how the offense, as a defensive coordinator, you can see how the offense is trying to spread you out and what motions they're running and what players they're using to do certain things, and you can be up there calm and you can write your own little notes on the side. And, it's like you have your own time to yourself to figure things out. And, without all the noise around you, because if you're available to any and everyone on the team on the sidelines, then any and everyone's going to walk up to you and say something to you whenever they feel necessary. And whether you tell them like, whether you say, I don't want anyone to say anything to me on the sideline, where you're here, so I can talk to you on the sidelines. I'm going to talk about this right now. Hey, coach, I saw this. Hey, coach, I saw that. You have a million things running through your mind already. I think it creates a chaotic situation for you and your mind, especially as a defensive coordinator of the Chicago team, like the Chicago Bears, because you also got to hear the fans behind you. Right. You got to hear these fans standing right behind you, telling you what's giving it to you. And I know they gave them the business. So, go up in the booth, man. Go upstairs and, get that calm and that peace and keep your sanity. And, maybe things will change.
I got a question to add to this. Since you two are ex-college players, when you're on the field as a player, are you able to see something that maybe the coach on the sideline don't see?
Not much.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can
Sometimes.
like when it's in right directly in front of you. Like if you looking like if I'm a DB and I'm
Mhm.
looking for a lineman splits might indicate to me that this could be a run or a pass play. If he, just depending on how they're split on the offensive line.
Okay.
Yep.
Sometimes in the booth you can see a little bit of that, but it's more apparent when you're on the field. But yeah, that's kind of a hard call. Like if a guy goes in motion to the other side of the field, if I'm on one side of the field as a DB, if a guy goes in motion and goes to the other side of the field, how he sets up, like let's say if he lined up in the slot, a key to me could be him being in the slot and being off the ball could be me an indicator of it's about to be a screen to that side. I mean, that's the key for me to have to, I need to be able to notice that if I can, but if I can't, I just, go through my routine. But yeah, it's a lot of things you can see from different angles that, a player on the field can see that you can't.
Well,
Yeah, coaches will ask you questions too. When you get back to the sideline, you usually speaking to your position coach, and he'll ask you questions like, "Hey, who blocked you on that power play? Which guy? What number blocked you on that power play? Did he reach you, or did he power block you, or did your man pull on that last play? They'll ask you questions like that so they can try to understand the blocking schemes of the other team, so that next time we go out there, they'll call a different play if they see something else, or they'll alert the linebackers to change the play up a little bit, or change our formation, or change our alignment. Excuse me, not our formation, change our alignment on the defensive line. So it's helpful sometimes. Yeah, it's all a chess match throughout the entire game. It's a chess match.
well, my reasoning for asking that question, I don't know how much trust Getsy has in Fields, because Fields could go to the sideline and Getsy could say, "Hey, what happened?"
Yep.
And Phil says, "Well, I saw this, but I was afraid," because that's how
Mm-hmm.
Fields is playing, like he's afraid to screw up. And
Mhm.
I've in everyday life, if you're afraid or you're thinking negative or whatever, guess what happens? The worst. It's like when
Right.
you
Yep.
oversleep. If you
Mm-hmm.
oversleep going to work, you're going to hit every red light.
Every red light. Yep.
Your shoes
Never
fly up.
fails. Yep.
So I mean, it's the same thing with football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
no, you're not wrong, man. I think
Mm-hmm.
I think Stamo said the key word earlier in the game after I said conservative, and it turned into robotic.
Yep.
It was very robotic, and understanding, and this is to understand what it must be like for Justin, trying to make sure that you're following through with the coach's desires to make sure you're playing a safe football game and you're not putting the ball at risk. What is part of the hit strategy? Turnovers. I mean, takeaways. You don't want to be giving that ball away. And so he's going to try to not to put that ball in harm's way the best way he can to satisfy his head coach, because that's what his head coach prioritizes. Flus is Flus could be Flus. I like the way he thinks. I love the way he approaches this whole thing, and I think he's going to get a chance to right the ship. I think we probably going to be having a different conversation Sunday night when we start having Nomad at Night show. But I understand where the coach is coming from. You had a quarterback with some shortcomings in his game, right? You have a quarterback that does have some real serious talent and some real serious upside, but you want to try to couple that with, let's keep him safe while we're asking him to do this and do that, and that goes into how they call the game plan. And so I think that's what you saw, and to the extent to where he wasn't him. He didn't challenge anybody down the field. You got Tyler Scott that can take a top off of a defense. Didn't get one target down the field. DJ Moore can take a top off of defense. Didn't get one target down the field. There's something to be said to that. And it's not all Justin. He did miss some plays. He did miss some plays, but I think it's more due to making sure that I don't turn this ball over and have this coach in my ear saying, "Hey man, we got to protect the ball better."
Well,
Because that's exactly what he's going to say to him.
That's, and I'll go back to, I wish he would be more like Jim McMahon. To me, Justin, he seems like a very nice, polite kid.
Mm-hmm. Too
And,
polite.
and he's trying to be a coach pleaser.
Yep.
If the play's not there, I don't care who you are. It isn't going to work.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I mean, from time to time, you got to call an audible.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like you said, Nomad, when they want to go deep, if we're not going to go deep, we have to at least give that threat to the defense. We have to send guys deep and at least just throw it out there to make them think that we might throw it deep on you. We might be trying to trick you and we might hit you deep, because now the defense steps up and they're creeping closer and closer to the line. Like, hey, these guys aren't going to throw deep at all. You know what? We're going to inch up a little bit closer. You know, we're going to step up a few more yards. You know what? The screen, that looks like the screen we saw last time. Let's step up some more. Let's take 2 more steps. You know, they're getting closer and closer to the line of scrimmage. And, you know, and that's when you should have gashed them. That's when Gessie should have gashed him. He had the perfect opportunity to, you know, throw right behind it. Now you sell him on something that looks like that screen and you throw behind it. You know, that's what I was looking to happen, but it never came to fruition.
I'd say
you better be glad. I man, I'm a straight guy, but I kiss you in the mouth right now because that's damn. That's damn. You just hit it square in the mouth, man. You just hit it square in the mouth, man, dog. That's it. You had them all tightly constricted in the box, exactly where you wanted them, because they got to a point where they just knew you weren't going to try them down the field. So what's the point in even trying to? You know, we leave one guy back there and just jammed up, because he ain't going to go down the field. They got him playing tight, and we're going to play them tight.
As far as that goes, on the first series, if you're 4th and whatever, I just go ahead and throw it long. It'll end up being like a punt anyway.
Exactly. Thank you.
You know, 1 out of 10 times you're going to get lucky.
I will try it.
Once in a while, the sun shines on a dog's ass. Well, there you go.
Yeah. And the other reason you throw it out there is because PI, they throw so many PI flags. You know, you rely on your receiver to make a play, either catch the ball or draw a PI. You know, or you go draw a PI.
The NFL
and we keep the ball.
The NFL wants scoring.
Yep.
Hang on, guys. Hold on. Got a question right here. This is from Walter Williams. Can you put that up, Nick? Question: Does Fields have the option to change the play at the line of scrimmage? Is basically what he's saying. From what I heard in the off season, it sounded like he was going to have the autonomy. What happened between then and game 1 against the Packers? I have no freaking clue. He sounded like in the post game press conference that, no, man, I'm not gonna rock the boat. If he called the play, I'm gonna execute it. You know, and that's, you know what, to me, that's kind of you kind of disabling your quarterback in that way.
Yes.
If that's the case, if that really is the case, I think you're disabling a very able quarterback that can really, really get into attack mode when he sees something that he likes with the kind of weapons that he has. So if that's the case, they did a disservice to Justin, not giving him that autonomy, in my opinion.
Preach.
Well, I'll tell you what, if that was the game plan after 14 screenplays, that boat needs rocked, tipped over, call it the Titanic, whatever.
Yep. Hey, that's exactly what Justin said. Justin said, and I think that was him protecting his coach and saying that he trusts his offensive coordinator to get him in the correct play and he'll execute it. And if it's not there, he's like, if the play is not designed to fit whatever defense is being ran, then he has to make a play. They'll figure it out. He has to figure it out from there. But he's going to execute the play that's called. And, you know, that's a mindset thing, too, of Justin's. Like, just because the coach says, you know, I want you to do this, if there's another play and you know you can get yourself into that play, Justin, you're going to have to help yourself and help your team and help your offensive coordinator to get it and say, hey, coach, I saw that was a good play. And you better be right, though. You just better be right. And he did it when he moved, though. He did it on the touchdown play, actually, when he pulled the protection in. You know, we had Cole Kmet out, flankered out, as a wide receiver, and then he saw something, he saw a blitz coming, he pulls the protection in, and I don't know if that changes the routes that the wide receivers run, but Mooney's wide open for a touchdown. Like, do more of that, Justin. Help yourself. Do more to help yourself because you have to take those hits. You're out there on the field.
Hey, Walter Williams, I sure appreciate you for that question. That was perfect timing, man, because before we flip to the defensive side of the ball, man, I want to say this. I think that's how you get him to get his moxie back. I think that's exactly how you get him to get his moxie back. You enable him. Enable him. If you see it at the line of scrimmage, Justin, take full autonomy. If you see DJ can get behind this corner in a 2 coverage, he can get behind this corner and you can fit a ball in behind the corner before the safety gets there, fit it in there. If you think he can take the top, if Tyler can take the top off of defense because you're seeing a 1-high coverage or something like that, go ahead and call it. I think that's how you give him Miss Moxie back. Empower him, encourage him. Go ahead and take a shot. Take 2 shots. Just get to the point to where you're being aggressive and you're in attack mode. I think that's what's missing. Him not being in attack mode. Now I'm gonna leave the offensive stuff there because we're about to flip to the defensive side of the ball. But I want to say this before we go there. Thank you guys for being here in this chat. I know there's a football game on, and I know people are 50-50 into this show and 50-50 into a game right now. But we appreciate you guys for being here, and we love you guys so much for supporting us and doing everything you do. But I have to say it, man, you got to make sure you hit the like button. If you like to keep us in the algorithm where we need to be at, and you want to show us solidarity, you got to make sure you hit this like button, man, and get this stuff into the algorithm so people can see us for what we are. And maybe we start getting next to these people that you guys despise so much. You got to hit the like. You got to make sure you subscribe so that we can compete with these people the way we ought to. You know we make better content than them. You know we do. But you got to help us along in that way. So make sure you like, subscribe, share, and hit that notification bell so you know when the hell we go on, man. But let's flip to the defensive side of the ball. Alan Williams was not there today. I'm just going to leave it there, Samo and Brian. What do you think is really going on? Is it legit, or what do you think?
Oh, boy. I would hope that he would be embarrassed, goes back and studies, I don't know, the game. But I don't wish that anything bad. I mean, it could be family related. It could be, a number of things. I hope it's just he needs to step back and take a break and regroup and nothing more.
Well, if they knew he wasn't going to be there, they should have made him available at some other time because we need answers about what was going on. And I'm not sure if he's the guy who's going to be the guy that what do they say, takes the hit for that loss. It seems like he is the guy that's taking the most slack for that loss, but it's convenient that he was out today on this Thursday, when he's scheduled to be there and have a press conference. I'll just say that much.
They may have let him watch the game and it made him
Yep.
Hey, hey, Samo. I don't know if I think I kind of alluded to this Sunday, and I'm gonna take parts of that and I'm gonna add it to what I'm about to say now. I'm gonna say this first. Alan Williams could very well be having an issue with himself, his family. I don't know. If that's the case, man, hey, prayers and good vibes to you and your family, Alan Williams.
Absolutely.
And whatever's going on right now, I hope it's something that you can control, contain, and get better. I hope.
Yes.
However, if it is anything other than that, if you are Matt Eberflus and you know that it's a lot riding on the decisions that you make now, and you're a defensive coordinator, Alan Williams is his friend. He's not just a defensive coordinator. That's a friend of his. Yeah, that's what people need to understand. That's his friend. And he was going to give that guy full autonomy, whether we liked it or not. He just wanted that guy to have full leverage to do whatever he thought was best. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the play calling that here's the thing. If you're Alan Williams and you're determined that I can make this work with 4, getting home with 4, I can get home with 4. Just give me a chance to let these guys play, and I think I can get home with 4. When that starts not to be the case, and you do not adjust to
I
it,
can tell you exactly when.
and you do not adjust to it,
Mm-hmm.
that becomes a problem for the defensive coordinator. You got the pieces out there. We have solid pieces out there that we can simulate extra energy on the blitz. You can bring in sub packages, but when you realize that you got 4 guys that really can't get home consistently, then you have to adjust. And so with Flus, I don't know who's the aggressive one between those two. It could be Alan Williams. It could be Flus. It could. I mean, I don't know. But Flus is deciding. I think if this is the case that he's pushing Alan Williams to the side so he can call plays, he's gonna want to be more aggressive. And I think that's the way to go, because there was plenty of times in that game that I know for a fact that I would have brought more aggression in certain down and distances than what Alan Williams was willing to do. I didn't see very many linebacker blitzes. I seen a few corner blitzes that got blocked up. But go ahead, Sam. Go.
No, I'm just gonna say, man, the pivotal point in the game. This was the most pivotal point in the game to me, and I tweeted this out. We were down 10 points to start after a touchdown to start the fourth quarter. We were in 3rd and 3. Green Bay has a false start, so pushes them back to 3rd and 8. We rush 4. That's when Jordan Love hits who was that? The wide receiver from.
That is the stuff that you do when you're not sure about the guys behind you. I'm pretty sure the guys behind them can make plays. You rush when you know that you have the linebackers and the secondary behind them that can cover up what you let go. And so to me, it was either you got confidence in those guys or you don't.
Bingo.
What receivers are so threatening that you don't go up and press and blitz? That you can't go up and press and blitz in that situation. What receiver was so threatening? Like, come on, man. That was just a horrible play call, man. That was just horrible. We allowed Jordan Love to sit back there for 6 seconds, and he finds the rookie wide receiver for an 18-yard gain. Then he fumbles the next snap and picks it up, and then they get a touchdown. So it's just like, that was the game to me. That was our opportunity to get back into the game, get the ball back to our offense, after scoring a touchdown and, turning that game around. It went downhill from there. We were only down 10 points at that point in time. This is to start the fourth quarter, 15 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. That just blew my mind, man. I was throwing stuff at the TV at that point.
Sam, hold on 1 second, Brian. I got more, and I'm gonna tell you why I got more heat for Alan than I do for Luke Getsy. Luke Getsy was just trying something out. I still have problems with the fact that he didn't adjust either. But Alan Williams, man, to be so timid with the kind of linebackers and secondary that you have behind, I mean, I wanted to choke that guy. I'm like, God, you gonna bring some.
What are you?
Oh my God.
All I was going to add, how many 3rd and longs did they have, and Green Bay converted them?
Man.
Yeah, all game long. That means we were stopping the run. We were at least slowing the run down enough to get in these 3rd and long situations, only to allow Jordan Love to sit in the back of the pocket and sit there and wait for someone to get open. That was just terrible coaching, man.
Green Bay's punter had cobwebs on him because they didn't need him.
They didn't need him at all.
Well,
Brian, the best blitzing linebacker that we have on the team, Zach Sanborn's pretty good. Tremaine Edmonds is pretty good too, like better. But he was sitting on the sidelines. That's Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell will run. I mean, you got to get him in the game. You got to give him a chance.
I wouldn't even think about that.
I got a question for you. This is off script a little bit, but for lack of a better word, how long of a list do you think Kevin Warren has with the coaching staff? He didn't hire him.
Kevin Warren ain't gonna do nothing right now. He's gonna give them dudes all the latitude that they need. He knows it's just one game, and he knows that we can all be hyperbolic on these podcasts and doing these shows and on Twitter. He knows there's one game. I think Kevin Warren, Ryan Poles, and everybody is wanting to see what they do to adjust. Can they fix what went wrong the first game? So I know for a fact that he knows he ought not say nothing other than, okay, if the owner is getting in his ear, which somebody might have said that the owner wasn't happy. Of course, he's not happy, but he ought not inject himself into this whole situation unless somebody asks him something. You know what I mean? He ought to stay the hell out of this. Let the GM and let the coaches deal with this.
Wasn't there a supposed meeting today with McCaskey?
Warren as well.
Yeah.
I told you guys that was going to happen. I did not say it Sunday. It was going to be some heart to heart that was going to have to happen. But
Kevin needed to happen.
Yeah, Kevin Warren should stay out of this.
I mean, he probably didn't have much to say, but he was in attendance of up for that meeting, as he should have been as the president of the team. I think it was a meeting that George McCaskey wanted to have, and he should have called the meeting. Man, that was embarrassing. I want you to let them coaches and the GM know that it's unacceptable. Like, you guys sold us on, the Bears are ready. You sold us on, we needed Yannick Ngakoue, that he's going to get us to the quarterback. That's the other guy we need. So we need to give him $10 million, fully guaranteed. They have to sell the GM. They have to sell the president and George McCaskey on that. So, and you get to the game and you don't see it bear anything on the field. Like, you don't see any good results on the field, on offense, on defense, or special teams. And, your mother, who's 100 years old, sitting there and, she's watched this replay over and over again. She was like, didn't I see this last year? What year is this? Well, this is 2006 Bears team,
Well, that's probably why she's as old as she is. She thinks she's living Groundhog Day and she's 75.
Right.
You guys want to hear something that really stuck out to me? And I was saying this before the game. I was expecting Justin Jones to really, and I want to say this with a little caveat. Green Bay has one of your better offensive lines in the league. I will say that first. And I'm just trying to give Justin Jones a little slack. But Justin Jones, I was expecting to have a really good game, being that he was going to get multiple one-on-ones and multiple opportunities to really wreck and get in the backfield and move those guys backwards. That didn't happen. Billings did his job. Now, if I had to give somebody a sucker for this game and say, man, dog, you were it, it would be between Billings and probably Tyreek Stevenson. Even though he got whooped for a touchdown, I'd probably give it to Billings. Billings, man, he did his damn job. Well, he gave multiple guys opportunities, and multiple guys like Justin Jones and Dominique Robinson, they blew it.
Yannick played a good game. I mean, he did what you paid him for. Actually, I thought he did better on the run than what he was advertised.
Yeah, he did. He definitely played the run well, I thought, in that game. And as far as his opportunities to rush the passer, it looked like he got chipped on some plays and double teamed. But the guy who was one-on-one for most of the game was the guy that did the most talking in the offseason about how much he hates the Packers and we're going to kick their ways, kick them so hard and they're stupid and they're this and they're that. And, when I saw the stat line at the end of the game where everyone was making a big noise or making a lot of noise saying, well, he didn't make the stat sheet at all. He played most of the snaps of the entire game, but he didn't record anything on the stat sheet. And I'm thinking, well, man, they focused in on him. Then I watched the video. This dude was one-on-one the entire game, pretty much, man. He did not win a battle, not one. And that's disappointing because that 3-tech is the position, is the engine for this defense. That's the engine for this defense. That guy has to win his one-on-one. He has to step into the backfield as quickly as possible to disrupt the run game and the pass game, as quickly as he can, and he failed miserably. So I'm ready to move on from Justin Jones personally, just because of what I saw last year and, what I saw. Yeah, I know it's one game, but I think that's not the position for him. Like, we need someone who's a little bit quicker and someone who's going to be a little bit more aggressive in that position, and he just doesn't have it.
Let the
I wanna-
rookies cook.
I want to echo something Bear Truth 9 just said. He said Justin Jones proved to him that he's a rotational player, something like that. I'm going to have to agree with that. I was expecting him to excel because he was right when he said in the offseason, why he didn't look as explosive as he could have is because the offensive line was sliding a lot of blocking towards him to neutralize him. He was the most explosive guy we had on the interior last year for the most part. And, I knew that with Billings coming here, that he was going to get a lot of opportunities. And I said it Sunday, man, like that guy really was a letdown, man. And I don't know what they're going to do about Dominique Robinson. I don't know how much
Another letdown.
how much leeway. I mean, you got a whole roster spot on the 53 that you could really get some more help on your team, but you're developing Dominique Robinson. I'm one of those guys that believes in developing players and giving them time to get to where they need to be. But when it's at the point of where it's costing your team to where you're expecting a guy out of that 8-man rotation and those two sets of fours that you're putting out there, you expect him to be one of the guys that's getting most of the pressure. And he's getting zero. And so you have to make a decision. How much time and how much space are you going to give him and be willing to develop him versus you need to start making some hay right now and get a guy that can give you some benefit right the hell now.
Yeah, their stats was the same as mine, and I was 200 miles away from the stadium.
Good point. You and me both. We could have played. We could have done just as bad.
Yeah, a hell of a lot more entertaining.
Yeah, I think it's
juggle it or something.
So let's talk about something else, man, because this is
real quick though, man. Is that not arrogance though? Is that not arrogance and ego that's allowing Don Rob to stay on the field though? Is that not Ryan Poe? Do you think that's Poe's wanting to keep him and develop him? Let me just say this. I'm gonna say two things real quick. One, I think Pickens should be playing 3 tech before you move on. I think Pickens needs some reps at 3 tech just because of his quickness and the way he gets off the ball. He has heavy hands. We need to try him there. I think that's arrogance and not very smart not to just at least see what he can give us there. And the other thing is, man, so the story last year was our defensive line not being very good. The story this year is our defensive line not being very good. And not just individually, this is collectively, no matter who we put out there. So I'm thinking that the problem is the coach, man, is the defensive line coach. Like, I'm ready to move on from this Travis Smith dude. Like, I know people keep saying, like, he's supposed to be the apprentice of Rod Marinelli, but he's not motivating these guys. He doesn't have these guys ready to play, and that's no one on the field has produced anything over the last 2 years at the defensive line position.
They have no.
So I'm ready to move on from him. No one is getting better.
Well,
we've seen
we have some
regression.
talent. They have no attack.
And we have
talent.
Yes,
they have talent.
Let me say this, man. Let me say this. Here's what I think is happening. I think the coaching staff, maybe and the GM overestimated how much time they would have to take their time and develop the guys that they wanted to develop. They didn't realize that this is a very, very emotional fan base who is very, very. We have as a fan base. I'm just going to talk about us as a whole. I'm not talking about me personally. I have much of a longer wick than your average Bears fan because I'm just not. I just know what football is, and it takes time to get it to where you want to where people really respect the product that you're putting on the field. And so I think they thought they had more time to develop someone like Dominique Robinson, who had no effing skills at playing defensive end. Everything was raw. It was just raw talent they were developing. I mean, they were drafting. It was about development from day one with that guy. How much time they thought they had to develop him, I think they're finding out the hard way. Oh, God, I don't think we had time to, really let this guy get to where he needs to get to. We may have to put this guy on the practice squad and get somebody else in here and put him on the 53, or get a guy off the practice squad and allow him to enable him, like someone like Khalid Kareem, whoever it is. Maybe somebody else needs to get in there and put Dom on the practice squad. You may have to risk him. Somebody might take him that has more time to develop him. That's an L for you. But right now, you got to get a win. And if Dominique Robinson ain't helping you along in that regard, then you got to accept that and start doing things accordingly. So I think that's what the deal is.
I hear you though, man. But at what point do we say, look at the guy who's responsible for developing him and saying, like, okay, when is whatever you were supposed to be teaching this guy going to yield some results on the field? Because not only is he not producing, no one is producing. So I don't know if it matters who we bring in at this point, because we brought in Yannick. You know, he got a covered sack. He got a coverage sack. As much as I love having Yannick on the field, that sack was a coverage sack. You know, that was just because the DBs held their own for a long period of time, and he was able to get free. But no one on the defensive line is generating not only any sacks but we're not even getting pressure, and that's a problem, man. And this is the second year in a row. And I know this is only game one, but
Rasheem Green was crushing.
It's something I'm keeping my eye on for the next couple games.
Rasheem Green was crushing on the edge a little bit. He was
at
crushing.
The end of the game when they put him in for Don Robb. Yeah, but towards the end of the game, you mean, right? When they finally moved Don Robb out.
It was ugly looking at it. Here's what I don't like. I heard somebody say something about Bojack, talking about, I think it was Dan Hampton, called him a clown. And I was just like, oh, hold up, man. I'm like, hold up, man, dog. Look, for a safety like Eddie Jackson, I'm not saying Eddie Jackson, he played far from a flawless game. But when you have a ball dominant kind of safety like that, this dude is going to look to make plays when he can make plays.
Yes.
He came into that game looking to make plays, and he put himself in position. He jumped when he shouldn't have jumped, and he should have probably stayed back in coverage. That's something he's going to learn from. But to call the guy a clown, that was wild on Dan Hampton's part. I got to say that publicly.
Yeah, he overstepped his bounds. I like Hampton. I remember when he got drafted out of Arkansas. To get back to what you were saying, Chicago is the third largest city. The Bears is one of the oldest teams. This coaching staff, they better realize real quick that you got to take the good with the bad. I will say, and I can say this as an outsider, Chicago has fans for whatever sport is the most loyal fans. You look how long it was when the Cubs won a World Series. They still sold out. The Bears have sold out all but one or two games since 1972. That's a loyal fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, I agree with both. I think both of you are right in that you have to give players time to develop. But how much time is that? A year, 2, 3? And also, I'm not too keen on the defensive line coach. That Smith, when I read his resume, it didn't wow me. And I don't care if he's the illegitimate son of Rod Marinelli. He's not.
That's what it seemed like, a little nepotism going on over there. Something's going on.
And speaking of nepotism, I mean, it is, but it didn't. You can't fall in love with your draft picks.
No.
You do everything you can to nurture them, to get them up to speed, to fulfill their potential. But if it isn't there, it isn't there.
Yeah.
You can't let the whole team suffer because, well, this guy just needs a little time to catch on. Again, that don't work in the workforce.
Nope.
Hey,
we be fired. No, I'm just saying. I love what Brian just said there. Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything Brian just said.
Put aside the fame and fortune. I don't care. If you're making $4 an hour or if you're making $4 million, you still have to put that effort. Number one, you got to give a damn.
Yes.
Bottom line. Number two, you put that effort. You care.
Mhm.
They're in a position where they're in the limelight. Everything's going to be magnified. I mean, my job, I don't have reporters I got to answer to or anything like that. So I can't deal with that, or I don't have to deal with that. At the same time, you know that coming in. This may have been your only way, to support your family, or it may have been the best way to support your family. You're not going to make any more money. I don't care what you studied in college. You ain't going to make what a pro athlete makes.
Right.
So the motivation part, coaching can do so much, but there has to be times when you do it yourself. If you got to go work out to the gym, that coach can't do the bench press for you.
Right.
I'm gonna say this.
Right.
I'm gonna say this about, and this is totally going counterclockwise to what Brian's talking about. I'm talking about if I'm Eberflus, right?
Mhm.
If I'm Eberflus, and I'm gonna talk about on the offensive, on the defensive side of the ball. I believe that under the circumstances, I think Allen Williams would have the next 3 or 4 games to really get better at what he wants under normal circumstances. But in this culture of the Bears atmosphere and in our sphere of the fan base and the social media that comes with all that stuff, I thought he probably had more time to let Allen Williams develop as a coordinator. I think he knows now that I better take the helm. I better start, I need to call these plays and make sure that we calling. He's going to have to get one-sided on the ball with trying to keep an eye out of the corner of his eye on his peripheral vision on Luke Getsy and what he does, with the eye on having to. You may have to do something with him. I don't know, but it became clear to me. It became clear to me after that first game that these coordinators either do not know what they're doing or don't know how to script up the right game plan. Not only those two things, but can't make adjustments. And so that's a big problem. Because not only do you have one coordinator that you're not really trusting right now, but you got two. And so now you gotta take the helm. I know I can go on the defensive side of the ball and man that part of the ship, and we'll be fine. We can get this going over here. But what do you do on that other side of the ball? Do you let this guy keep going, or do you empower? Because I can tell you right now, they didn't play enough of what's his name, Deontay Foreman or Roshan Johnson until it was too late. It was too much Khalil Herbert after you saw that Khalil
Way
Herbert
too much.
couldn't get enough momentum in the ground game. You should have started making you start giving more balls to Foreman and Roshan Johnson. I know a lot of people have a lot of feelings about Roshan. I still think he needs to be a backup to Foreman. But get him more touches. Get him more touches, but he needs to be a backup to Foreman.
I'll say this, and I think I mentioned it in an earlier show. I like Khalil Herbert, but to me, he's a change of pace type back. He's not your bell cow. He's not a starter. I don't know if Johnson is ready for it yet. He's showing all the signs he can do it. But right now, yeah, I would let Foreman be the starting running back. That don't mean he gets the most carries. It just let him wear down the defense. And then you can let Herbert do his magic and break the yards.
I think it was Go ahead, Samuel.
No, I'm just gonna say, like all off season, I was saying the same thing about Herbert. Man, I didn't see him as a number one back. Been saying this since April. Man, we have Roshan. We have. I really believe in Foreman a lot. I think he's the one guy that could run the outside zone and the power game. I think Roshan is strictly a power game. I don't see him being able to run that the outside zone as well as Foreman can. So that's why I'm agreeing with Nomad that Foreman should be starting, but Roshan has a place on this team. We should use him early and often, like that power game. And I think our offensive line liked that as well because they were blocking harder when Roshan was in there. I think they like going forward more than they have to do, more than just, moving laterally and doing things in that outside zone game. So, whatever it's going to take to get that offensive line ramped up, I think we maybe need to start with that with Roshan a little bit more and get him some early carries, like you said, Nomad, so that he can just so that it can get the offensive line a little hype as well. Like, man, because they were really blocking really well when they were going downhill, and they just have to push guys off the ball. And Roshan was, man, he was looking like what's that guy in Tennessee's name? Derrick Henry.
You out now, man. But hey, listen, man, that
Hey,
Roshan is and I want to taper people's feelings because Roshan has some really explosive runs. But Roshan is a north-south guy.
yep.
He doesn't have a lot of wiggle. He's got some, but he doesn't have a lot of it. He sees a hole and he's running. Somebody gets in his way, he's gonna try to plow him down. That's what you have with him. He's pretty good at pass protection, but he's a rookie, guys. He's a rookie. Sometimes he's gonna miss the pass pro and he's gonna get the quarterback killed. I mean, excuse my words, he's gonna get him hurt. You got to know that he's a rookie. He's not fully developed in this system. Foreman is he ran a version of that in Carolina, so he knows exactly what he's doing out there in this system. You still need to give Roshan some time. Once he's to the point to where he understands the scheme, the blocking concepts, all the pass pros, and knows how to operate on hot routes and all the stuff that comes with being a running back, then he needs to get more touches. But right now, I think you ought to give a heavy dose. I mean, when I say a heavy dose, I mean a heavy dose of Deontay Foreman, and they're going to get Khalil Herbert in the game, but Roshan shouldn't be far behind.
Yep.
I just think they need to soften up the defense with your two horses before you put Herbert in.
Yeah, I think you use those guys in situations, man, because short yardage, I'm putting Roshan in. If it's 3rd and 2, or if it's 2nd and 2, and I know I want to run, I'm putting him in. I'm putting him in just to give the threat of the run. I might play action with him just because the threat of him being in the game and teams knowing how powerful he is when he runs downhill. I think they bite really hard on that dude if you put him in on like those 2nd and short situations or 3rd and 1 situations and hand it off to him. Like short yardage and goal line, it's him, but out in the field, I'm definitely using Foreman out in the field, and then I'm sprinkling in Herbert from time to time. But I think you have to use those guys situationally because none of them are just great at anything, just the best at anything, but they all have some really good talents that you can use, and you have to sprinkle it in. You got to know how and when to use these guys.
Well,
Can I speak to 1-2? He's saying to me, I'm tripping because he thinks Roshan is ready. I'm telling you from experience, 1-2. I'm not trying to doubt what you're saying. I'm just telling you from experience. It probably just looks like he's ready, but trust me when I tell you, he ain't ready. He don't know that whole playbook. He don't know all his hots. He don't know all his pass pros. The plays that they're comfortable with putting him in there, they'll put him out there. Trust me when I tell you, he ain't all the way there yet. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Something else to keep in the back of your mind is Foreman is a 1-year rental. So you could either, lack of a better word, run the hell out of him and let some other team deal with his injuries, or if he's earned, another contract, more power to him. You have to beat up that defense, soften them up. It's the same thing with the long pass.
Same thing with the long pass. Yep.
Dinkins,
them up.
Screens, they all work, but just like you can't long bomb at every pass either. There has to be that mixture.
Yep.
And I do believe that Johnson has the potential. He needs to learn, like you said, the playbook.
He might have the playbook. I think he has a good grasp of the playbook. I'm gonna say this. I think he has a good grasp of the playbook, a good enough grasp of the playbook. I'll say enough grasp of the playbook. I think he might be he might be our best blocking back right now, just from a technical standpoint. But I think teams are going to try to fool him, or definitely try to fool him with who they bring and confuse him a little bit. But as far as technically
He'll
him
take his lumps.
locking onto guys and sticking his nose in there, I think he's probably the best player we have that's able to do that. My problem with him is what Nomad said. He's not a lateral guy. He can't move laterally. He doesn't change directions quickly and smoothly. Like, he's a north and south guy. When he's going north and south, he's powerful. He can hit a hole really quickly. He can take one step or two and one step laterally and hit it up, but he's not a wiggle guy at all. And teams are going to figure that out quickly, and they're going to know, like, all right, we know this guy just runs north and south, so they're going to key on that. You're like, we're just going to hit this guy. We know he can't get lateral, so we'll run someone in front of him and try to force him to go outside, and he's not going to get there. He's not going to turn that corner fast. He's not a guy that can get around the corner. That's not his game.
I agree with you 100%, Samo, but with one caveat. You got Justin Fields as quarterback. He runs pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
That's true too.
Read option.
That's true too.
There's a lot of
we got to use him to set some stuff up. Yeah, we definitely got to get Justin going as far as his running as well. Like, that was stupid just not to use that threat.
That's his biggest threat at this point.
That's a threat.
They need to use it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another analogy. It would be stupid for me to get cable and get 2,000 channels if I'm only going to watch 7.
That is great. A great analogy.
So you guys, let me say this to you guys. If you notice, we stayed away from the Tampa Bay game because we don't want to get into that until Sunday pregame. Mm-hmm. And so if you do nothing else, you guys, make sure you tune in to our Sunday pregame, because we're going to break it down the right way, the way that it needs to be broken down. We're going to have post game on Nomad at night after the game. And so make sure you set your notifications for all of that. So if you enjoy all this content that we gave you tonight, and you enjoy what we do on a regular, you got to make sure you like it. If you want to help us in the algorithm compete with these other guys out there, you don't like what these other guys, this negative content that these guys kind of put out here without any context. Oh, this player looked bad, and they make a whole damn show about that instead of giving you content about what the hell was bad about it. Make sure you like and subscribe. Bring it up. Help us in the algorithm so we can compete. That's your job. As supporters of the Bears, support the people that really support you guys. And so don't you can watch all that content, you can support all that content, but don't forget who gives you the details, man. I just wanted to say that. Before we go around the horn, Samuel, I want to ask this question. Are we do you feel good about where we are? Are you all the way off the bandwagon?
Man, I'm never gonna jump off the bandwagon. Like Brian says, I'm a loyal Bears fan. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm always gonna rock with them, man. And I see it. Like I said, man, it was embarrassing and it hurt last week, but I'm still rocking and rolling with my Bears.
That's right, Brian.
Okay, number one, I want to thank you, Nomad, and Samuel, for letting me on here. All I'm giving is an old fan's perspective. How I look at it when I'm watching a game, all right, Sunday, for example, if the Bears are just totally getting cream, my hope is after halftime, hey, the same thing could happen, only it's the Bears' way. And that's how I'm going to look at Tampa Bay. As bad as they played Sunday, they could be lights out this coming Sunday. That's what I hope. Mm-hmm. Win, lose, or draw. At 59 years old, it's too late for me to change, and I don't want to.
Nick?
So, before the season even started, I thought that their ceiling, in my opinion, was 8 wins, and their floor was 6. It's any given Sunday in the NFL. So, I don't like going into games thinking they might win this one or they might lose this one. I just want them to go out there and play and see what happens.
All right.
And I'll save everything else for Nomad's pregame show on Sunday.
First thing I want to say is this. First of all, I want to thank Brian Hendren for making his first appearance on a live show, I was able to. He had a bunch of reservations about whether or not he should do it and why not. And I told him, I said, tell them to do something with themselves. But hey, you would be. I wanted to say a couple things, but I did not say it because this is Nomad Live, and we're trying to change the way we talk. But I told him you're going to be just fine. One thing I did explain to him was I explained to him that one of the things that we pride ourselves in is being really. I want us to be diverse. I want us to be diverse in our way of thinking. I want us to be diverse in the people that we put on the platform all around. We're gonna bring a whole bunch more people onto the Nomad Network. I just want to make sure people understand that I don't care who you are. I don't care who you are. If you're a decent person, you can probably find yourself a place on the Nomad Network. We're gonna be a bunch. Brian Hendricks is going to be one person that we brought in that we respect, that really loves what we do, man. But I sure appreciate him for getting past his reservations and saying, you know what? I appreciate what these guys do. They asked me to come on. He accepted it. And I got nothing but respect for him for doing that. And it was perfect timing because we needed to talk as a fan base to each other about what the hell is going on here and be honest with each other. So, Brian, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much, man.
Well, you're quite welcome. Ditto. Apparently, this is what my fans need.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. We appreciate you, Brian.
From everybody at the Golden Acres Nursing Home where I'm at, putting up with an old hillbilly. Nomad, I told you that I sound like a shit salesman with a free sample in my mouth. But I'm really glad that I did this, and I look forward to doing it again whenever you want me to.
Hey, you just made yourself a whole lot of supporters, man, because you was able to do it. I love you, man. I want to tell you that. Hey, man to man, I love you for being the guy that you are, man. I do appreciate it.
I'm an old hillbilly with just the GED, but I got Bears pride, and damn it, I'm going to share it.
That's why. That's exactly why I love you, man. Hey, I wanted to say this to you guys in the chat, man. Thank you guys for giving us your time. I know it's a football game on. I'd much rather be watching a football game right now. But you guys made it your business to come in here and make sure your voice got heard. We love you guys, man. I'm going to tell you this one more time. You don't know how far the Nomad Network is going to go. You have no idea what we're about to do. But it's going to be great. That's all I'm going to tell you guys. And hopefully we'll have Brian on the show again and again and again because I think he made some fans tonight. Don't you guys think so too?
Well,
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Everybody. And on a side note, anytime that we're on and there's a game on, I'll go ahead and watch the game. I don't know if anybody noticed. I try to relay the score as soon as they touch.
Mm-hmm.
Or as soon as they scored. I'm sorry.
All right, people. We spent enough time on here because now I'm ready to go into the Tampa Bay game. And I know we got to stay there for Nomad Live Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm on this ship, I would please everybody, if you like it, subscribe. If you liked it, hit the button.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
you don't want me to do a nude show.
Make sure you do it so we don't have to look at
that. If it brings more fans, then hey.
Halloween, I ain't making no bets.
I love it, man. Hey, one more time, you guys. Love you guys for being here. Thank you for supporting us and keeping coming. We're going to keep bringing it for you guys, man. I'm going to just say this to you guys. I love you guys. Love, peace, and hair grease, people.
I was about ready to say all Bears all the time.
We can try that. You want to try that?
Sure, why not?
All right. On 3, I'm going to say all Bears, and everybody says all the time. On 3. 1, 2, 3. All Bears.
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Butchered it again, man. Let's get